Mr. Scott Seifferlein, who I'm going to introduce you here officially in just a minute. But just a couple of reminders. Number one, don't forget, if you want to call into the program at any point through the live performance, which we're obviously live right now, you can call area code 646-716-4667. That number again is area code 646-716-4667. Or you can email me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com if you've got some questions or comments throughout the program. I'll certainly try to read those out. Also, if you're on Facebook, I would certainly appreciate it. Visit us on Facebook.com/Golf Talk Live blog and throw a few likes, or if you want to post a few comments on there about the programs, either past or current programs, would love to hear from you. And I've been racking up my Twitter followers here in the last few weeks since I've been pushing it, so I'm going to push it again. My Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO. I would love for you to connect with me on Twitter. Don't do a lot of tweets, but certainly keep everybody posted on what's happening here on Golf Talk Live. So we'd certainly love for you guys to follow me there. And lastly, for those of you that have been checking out the website, blog, it's www.golftalkliveblog.com. Especially go there this time of year as we get closer to Christmas. Everybody's looking for some great gifts to buy. Some of the previous guests have had some books on there. I've very graciously have put the jacket of the book and a short cap of what the book is about, and obviously a direct link and where you can purchase it. So for those of you who want to get a book for that golfer in your family, you can do that at the golftalkliveblog.com website. As I said, my guest this evening, I've really had to kind of wait until the latter part of the season. He's just so busy to get him on the program, but I'm very, very excited. I've been following him for quite some time now. I see him all the time on some of the media sites like Facebook and so forth, always chiming in and giving some great advice and thoughts, and I wanted to have him on here this evening to share with my listeners. As I said, Scott Seifferlein is a PGA golf guru and also the owner of GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com. He's a 4-time author of business golf and golf instruction books, and here's a list of the books that he's written so far. The Game of Golf and the Art of Business, 19 Holes of Business Golf Conversation. This is my favorite, Stop Slicing in 5 Swings, and Stop Slicing in 5 Swings for Left-Handed Golfers. The link to purchase the book, I'll give it to you now, but we'll also talk throughout the program, and you can get that again. It's at www.GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com, and just click on books, and you can get a copy for yourself. He's also a noted golf instructor in the Donald Trump's book, Trump, the Best Golf Advice I Ever Received. So make sure that you have a pen and paper handy, and because he'll be giving you some information that you won't want to miss. Without any further hesitation, let me welcome my guest this evening, Mr. Scott Seifferlein. Scott, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Ted. It's great to be here. I really enjoy doing calls like this, so thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. And just to let the listeners know, I'm going to take it easy on Scott tonight. He's a little bit under the weather, being up north, and that cold weather has been coming in. So forgive Scott if he's a little bit sluggish tonight, but I know he's going to do a great job here. Scott, let's just start right off. First off, just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. For those of you that aren't familiar with Scott, might want to learn just a little bit about you, and then we'll get into some questions for you.
Sure. Thanks. I've been in the business ever since, for as long as I can remember now, and this is my 20th year working in the industry. I've been a PGA member now since 2000, so going on 13, 14 years as a PGA member, and teaching full-time since 2003. So I really enjoy teaching the game, and relocated back to Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm from Michigan originally, and relocated back to Grand Rapids in the winter of 2006 to start up my own company, and that's how GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com got started, and I lease space at a very prestigious private facility here in Grand Rapids, Watermark Properties. They own 3 private clubs, and I actually teach full-time out of 2 of them. I don't use all 3 of them just from a logistics standpoint, but we're looking at expanding and doing some different things over the next few years. So we've got a great facility to teach out of, and that's kind of where I'm at with the golf instruction side of the business, and I'm sure we can get into more as we go tonight, but that's
sure
kind of what I wanted to highlight here to open.
Well, Well, not a problem, Scott. One of the reasons, just to let the listeners know, one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on this program, as I said, I've been following you for some time now on obviously Facebook and some of the other social media sites. Scott is very active in, particularly on Facebook, in a lot of the different golf groups and that, and it's not just a matter of sort of following along in that. You actually participate a lot in the groups and throw up a lot of great advice on the business side of golf, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on here. Obviously, I know you're an accomplished instructor. We certainly want to highlight that, but you also have a very keen business sense and have helped many, many people in the golf industry, many of your peers, on the business side to promote and market themselves. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight and give the listeners. So for those of you out there that are listening that are instructors, yourself, you definitely want to pay attention to Scott because he's got a lot of knowledge that he's accumulated over the years, and he's going to share some of that tonight. But let's start about just on the books first here, Scott. There are a lot of golf books on the market. We've seen, I mean, there's an unlimited amount, probably thousands. What makes yours different?
Well, I'll start with the flagship book that we are most proud of, my ghostwriter and I, my publisher and I as well. And we started that book in a conversation we were having. There's a lot of golf instruction books out there, as you said. That was what we were talking about. And what could make one golf instruction book stand out from another? And there's just so many out there. So we actually took a different route. We went with the route of business and golf and how they're related. And I have a lot of experience developing business on the golf course and experience developing my own business and how that relates to the actual game of golf. So the book is titled The Game of Golf and the Art of Business, and it actually highlights a very successful business person who I take around for a round of golf at the famous Bethpage Black Golf Course in Long Island. That most people are familiar with it because it hosted 2 U.S. Opens. And I was familiar with it, having played out in Long Island and teaching out there for several years at a couple different locations, Middle Bay Country Club and Puxbog Golf Center. And I played a few state opens there at the Bethpage Black Golf Course. So I take this gentleman through 18 holes of golf at Bethpage Black, and through that we discover 18 different challenges that are related to both how he would succeed on the golf course with each individual hole, and then how that's related to the challenges that he overcame to be successful in business. So it's actually, we turned it into an entertaining story, and you'll find some business golf books out there, and they may be full of content, but this is actually an entertaining story. What's interesting about it is I've had a lot of people that don't play golf that have read it and reviewed it and said that they really enjoyed the book. So that was something that we were trying to accomplish with that, and we did. We did very well with that.
Well, and that's what's, I think good about a book like this is you want to be able to not just, obviously you want it to be successful in the golf market, but you want it to be able to branch outside of the golf market as well. Because if and this is where a lot of the books run into the problem, is they tend to focus too much on one area, and quite often they're shutting out a whole other segment of the population. And I mean, it's great that you're writing a golf book and you want to target golfers, but if you can throw something else in there that other people would find interesting as well, then you're now opening the doors not only for the book, but maybe some people that maybe hadn't considered playing golf might say, there's a little more into this. I might want to look into it further, and you might get some new students out of it as well.
Exactly, and that was one of the goals. And then also just a lot of quality business lessons within that book as well that the business community can relate to, especially those that are, you've probably heard the stories all the time of how if a law firm sends out their new people coming into the law firm to go out and play some company golf, play in the company outing, and they haven't played golf, or they're not as skilled at golf and they're intimidated and it doesn't go well. So there's some good tie-ins there as well. Yeah,
and that's so true. There's a lot of business people out there. I mean, for years, for those of us that are in the golf business, have known that golf is a game that really has been used for years and years, not so much for just recreational, and obviously at the the highest levels, but it's also been a great tool for business types, and it is very intimidating for somebody that maybe isn't an accomplished golfer to sort of be thrust out into that arena, if you will. And that's where somebody like yourself comes in. You want to get connected with a PGA instructor, and certainly take some lessons and get a good start from day one. But I like stories. I like books that do tell a story. And I haven't read it. I'll be honest, I haven't read it as of yet, but I'm going to make sure I do. So it does has intrigued me, and I want to I'm going to get a copy of it and read it shortly. But where did you get your inspiration from?
Well, to tell you the truth, Ted, I've wanted to write a book for a long time, and then when I started my own business, it became even more important. Number one, from a business standpoint, a book gives you expert credibility. So it's opened up some doors for me to speak. But back to my inspiration, I had written a lot of articles and had a lot of content written over the years, and I wanted to at some point put it into a book form, but I was not an expert at how to turn it into a story and how to create that content. So fortunately, I was introduced to a publisher who's kind of a hybrid ghostwriter publisher. And he was able to take my concepts and really add the flair of the story to it. And it's just an outstanding job. It's based out of Holland, Michigan, and it's Black Lake Press is the company that did that for me. And they really did an outstanding job with this book. So I was super excited about doing that. But I had been inspired to write a book for a long time. I just didn't have the resources to do it myself. I imagine you run into people that always say that they're going to write a book or they're writing a book, and it takes them 5-10 years to do it, and they do maybe one chapter a year because it's so challenging to do it. But I really highly encourage somebody, if they're considering writing a book, to at least consider a ghostwriter as an option. It was outstanding.
Yeah, I'm sort of toying with the idea myself. Obviously, I haven't done a book thus far, but I've seriously considered it, and that's certainly some great advice. And when it comes time for me to get a little bit more serious about it, I'm definitely going to talk with you, Scott, and get some tips and advice on that. Because the more information, I look at life this way, Scott. The more information and education that you can give yourself along the way, and it doesn't really matter within reason where you're getting from. If you know somebody that's, whether it be in the golf business or elsewhere, that has some experience in something, it's smart for you to seek that individual or individuals out and draw from their knowledge when sort of doing your own thing. Because I think too many people sort of fly by the seat of their pants, and a lot of times don't maybe come out with their best effort as a result. And so that's where it's important. That's, again, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the program. I know that you're very active, not only in your golf business, but in the marketing end and promoting your business, and have done a fabulous job. And I know you've been well received in a lot of the different groups that I've seen you posting in on Facebook and, as I said, some of the other media sites. So this is why I wanted you to come on the program and share some of that knowledge, not only with the general public listeners, but also some of the other professionals that are tuning into the show each week.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to giving them some good content as we go here tonight.
Yeah. Now, the books that you've written, would you say that they're more geared towards the advanced business golfer or the new business golfer, or maybe a little of both?
Very much a combination of both, and that's been intentional. And even in my own teachings, the way I teach golf, I don't focus on just teaching the best players. I know there's a lot of instructors out there that are most exclusively with top junior players, top college players, and even some professionals. But I actually enjoy the most. I enjoy teaching people that are just trying to break 100. And my core of my client base is between 90 and 100. I have a lot of them that are still trying to break 100, or even new golfers just getting into the game. I actually teach very few people that are in the single-digit handicap. So most of my core base is between 90 and 110 score-wise, even with some new golfers that are just getting into the game. So the books that I've written... Sure, go ahead.
No. Sorry, I didn't realize you were continuing your thought. No, go ahead. Finish your thought, and then I'll ask you a question.
So the book, starting with The Game of Golf and the Art of Business, that's a story about a successful business person who's a 19 handicapper and how his experience would be going around a championship golf course like Bethpage Black. And then the 19 Holes of Business Golf Conversation, that's geared towards all levels of players who are just desiring to be more profitable with their business golf and to seamlessly work their way through a round of business golf without actually selling, but through developing relationships. So that can be, and even my keynote presentation that's related to that book, I highlight some key points for experienced players, what they can add to their round of business golf even though they're already good at golf, and then what the new golfer should do out there during a round of business golf. And then the instruction books, the Stop Slicing books, those are more geared towards the higher handicappers that are struggling with the slice.
Do you think, just kind of going back a little bit to what you just said a few minutes ago about working with some of the higher handicap players, I enjoy that more myself as well, and I think there's a higher excitement level in dealing with a student of that sort of that range, and the reason why I say that, and I'm just curious to see if you agree, when you start getting into the lower handicap players, it's a harder transition. You know, when you start dealing with the two handicap or even a scratch golfer, and you're trying to work with their game, you're not going to see anything monumental. Whereas if you got somebody that's trying to break 100, there just seems to be more enthusiasm once they've broken that 100, or they've starting to strike the ball better and with more confidence. You can just see the excitement building in their face. Do you find that as well with a lot of your students?
Absolutely. I mean, I took a guy this summer that came out and he said, I want to play in my company golf league. So we put together a program for him, and his first goal was that he could play the 9 holes in his company league without being told to pick up his ball. So they have an 8-stroke limit rule in their league, and that was his goal.
Right.
He was elated. After 16 weeks, I think it was the 14th week, he emailed me and said, I did it. I played all 9 holes without picking up my ball. I mean, that's awesome.
Wow,
when you can do that for somebody. And so he's fired up for next year. Now he's recalibrated his goals, and he's really going after it. And we got him a practice range membership at the private facility, and now next year his goal is to break 50. So that's going to be a huge step. And you'll probably notice that I speak lots in terms of 9-hole experiences because that's a lot of my clients are playing 9 holes these days. They either don't have time for 18 holes, or they're just at a level where 9 holes is more appropriate for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems that's happened in the industry in the past is, it was a little bit easier, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Not that I'm trying to date myself, but it was a little bit easier to play 18 holes. You didn't have as many golfers out there. But now, in the last decade or so, where there's been a big influx of golfers, it's not always easy to get out and play 18. Either just availability on a course. Not everybody has access to a private course. So some of your public, courses and things like that are just, quite congested. So I think it's smart that the industry is trying to sort of navigate people into playing 9 holes, and the instructors are doing that as well. Is starting with 9 holes. That doesn't mean they're never going to play 18, but just to focus on 9 holes and not so much on the bigger picture, because I think that, as you say, a lot of people just don't have time these days, and it just makes more sense to work within somebody's boundaries than trying to get them to do something that they're just not likely going to have the time for anyways.
Right, and I also am a big supporter of Tee It Forward or modified tees programs. I wrote a report titled the Critical Information Every New Golfer Must Know, and then I also wrote a report that I titled Scott Seifferlein's New Golfer Rules, and we talk about different places to tee off and different systems to use. I grew up on a 9-hole course that was only 2,700 yards. And it was fantastic because I was able to break 50 so quickly. And, and you start to see those scores, and maybe it was fictitious at that time for me to believe that I was a good player, but who cares? I believed it, and I kept going after it and kept getting lower and lower scores. Eventually started entering tournaments, and the scores went up a little bit, but I was still so inspired early on that I was motivated and kept after it until my scores were lower, even on the more difficult courses.
Well, and that's the thing, and it really comes down to motivation, and I think that's something that, especially when you're dealing with a newer golfer, and even particularly with the ladies that are just sort of starting out, they're intimidated as it is. So if you can do something that's going to build their confidence, and find, some people might say, well, it's not really a true test, but it doesn't matter. It gives them that confidence boost. It gets them excited about playing. Whereas if you're taking them out on a difficult course to begin with, and they're just all over the place, and they're just not playing well, or feel intimidated, then they're more apt to check out of the game than they are to stay tuned in. And I think that's smart. And that was probably, and I was much like you, Scott. Growing up, I played on shorter courses, and that sort of helped. I mean, I started at a very early age. I'm going to be 50 next year, and I started playing a little more officially, if you will, when I was 7. My father took me out and got me out at my first golf course when I was 7, and that's exactly what he did. Is he took me out onto a short 9, and we played that, and I was excited. And so, I mean, that's the way to do it. Let me ask you something, just because you mentioned about somebody playing in a golf event. What advice would you have for a new golfer playing in their first business golf event?
Well, be prepared, number one. I mean, it depends on how much time they have to get ready. If the boss threw it on them and they have to run right out there, a couple of days of preparation, and all of a sudden they're playing on a nice course, or versus if they have a couple months to prepare. So it really depends on the situation. If it's an emergency crash course that they need over 2 or 3 days before their event, I encourage them to stay focused on pace of play, learning a little bit of the terminology. Excuse me, terminology, not technology, terminology, and some of the basic etiquette and rules, so that they can go out there and make their playing partners feel comfortable about them being out there. If it's a situation where they're playing their own ball, actually, I'll tell you a story I did this summer. I had a friend of mine who went out for a round of business golf with me, and we invited one other person, and I didn't tell him that this other person had never played golf before, because I knew, based on his personality, my friend would not show up if he knew this guy had never played golf before. And I wanted this business relationship to develop a little bit further.
Right.
And we were going to play our own ball. So we get there, we arrive, and he finds out that this guy's a new golfer. And I said, just relax, everything's going to be good, watch this. And I took him through this system that I teach new golfers, where they actually tee off at 50 yards starting out, and if they score 5 or better, I use a graduation system, and then they go to 75 yards and then 100 yards, and they graduate in 25-yard increments. And he just had a blast doing that, because he wasn't pressured into hitting a ball across 4 football fields before he got to the green. And he was able to get on the green in 1 or 2 shots, and 2 or 3 putts later, he's got his 5, and he's moving on. The experienced player that we were playing with really loved it, because we played 9 holes in an hour and 40 minutes. So everybody had a really good time. We were able to have some business golf conversation, and it was just really outstanding. So that's a great example of taking a new golfer out on the golf course and giving them a good experience. If they've got some more time, like you mentioned, what else would we do for a new golfer? Then there's you can throw in some golf fitness, getting them prepared, because you'd be surprised how many people don't understand how much fitness is required to go out and play an 18-hole golf outing, and then they're still sore 3 days later because they weren't hydrated, they weren't prepared physically to go out and play 18 holes of golf. And then, of course, obviously we want to encourage them, if they've got some time, to learn some short game skills, to find a golf coach that they can work with over a couple-month period before that big first golf outing that they're going to play in.
One of the things that I've heard, and you're 100% right on, we've talked quite a bit here on Golf Talk Live about the short game. and especially with new golfers. I think one of the biggest mistakes that has happened over the years, and not so much in the more current years, but going back, as I said, a few decades, everybody was sort of focused on teaching the full swing and things like that, but more of the I guess the higher leveled instructors out there now are starting to realize that they need to focus more on the short game first, and really getting people comfortable and chipping and putting and that sort of thing, and sort of work backwards, if you will, from the green back to the tee, as opposed to the other way around. And I think people are finding it a much easier transition to learning the game than trying to worry about gripping and ripping it from day one and not getting good results, and not developing really the sound skills. Because as we all know, you're lucky if maybe you're teeing off with your driver 13, 14 holes on any given golf course. The majority of your shots are going to be made with your mid irons and down, and of course your putting plays a huge role. So why would you want to focus teaching somebody solely on their longer clubs, and particularly their driver, and learning the full swing, if they don't understand the sort of mechanics of the short game, where the majority of their scoring is going to come from anyways?
No, I agree 100% with you, Ted. From a business standpoint, I don't always do that because it's not sexy. And if they're playing an outing, they want to fix their slice. They want to hit a far tee shot, even if it's just one tee shot that they hit over 200 yards, and the foursome uses their tee shot in that outing. So if they really want that, I'll get in their head as to what they really want, and we can do that in a session. But to the best of my ability, I try and get them to understand that we really should learn the game backwards, starting from the hole, going backwards, and usually try and get them to make it their idea that, yes, okay, we should do that. And that way, in a lot of cases, I can show them some chipping drills that help them reduce their slice with their tee shot anyways. And once they understand that, then it's a much more enjoyable for them, because they get to tackle both things that they wanted to accomplish.
Exactly. Scott, just before we move on here, just one more question about your flagship book, as you said, the Game of Golf and the Art of Business. If there's one thing that you would like the reader to take from the book, what would that be?
I want them to take the lessons as a whole and understand how they apply to business, and really just apply it. I love when people apply, because it's so easy to read a book and you're just like, oh, that was entertaining, but then they don't actually do anything about it or make any changes. So that's a big thing that I would love for people to take away, is application. Even though it is a fun, entertaining story, there are things that you can take away and say, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and it's going to help both my golf game and my business.
Perfect. Scott, I'm just going to take a quick little break here, just to remind the golfers that are just tuning in a little bit later, obviously who my guest is, but also how they can either call into the program or contact the program, and then we'll get right back with some more questions. For those of you that are tuning in a little bit later in the broadcast tonight, my special guest this evening is Scott Seifferlein, PGA golf guru and the owner of GrandRapidsGolfLessons.com. He's a 4-time author of business golf and golf instruction books, and we'll read those out to you a little bit later in the show again and give you the link where you can purchase the books. He's just talking a little bit about not only the books, but just the business side of it as well, and just sort of how to help some of the students out there. And I really wanted to, as I said earlier in the program, I really wanted to get him on the show tonight and just to talk about that. But Scott, I want to just, before we get into the next questions here, I just want to take one more second here just to let, since we were talking about putting, just to let some of the listeners out there know about a great putting tool from Star Putter. Take a listen. Hi, this is Ted from Golf Talk Live. Are you looking to make more putts, shoot lower scores, and just play better golf? Now you can with the Star Putter putting tool. Simply use the tool 5 minutes before your next round and make 3 to 5 more putts. Practice with Star Putter 15 to 20 minutes, 3 times a week, and lower your handicap after just 10 rounds. Star Putter putting tool, available now at starputter.com. All right, welcome back. Scott, I just wanted to ask, just a few things, just about golf in general, just some of the things that we see with some of your students and that, and just as an example, what are some of the most common flaws that you see with the average golfer?
Just through the impact zone. I mean, those are the flaws that really stand out, and most people don't necessarily teach impact because it happens so fast, and it's easier to teach backswing. But impact is what I try and spend most of my focus on, and I tell a lot of my students that probably in the past they've worked with a coach who's taught them about grip, stance, alignment, and posture, and that they've been told that those are fundamentals. But if they were fundamentals, everybody would do them the same, the good players. And there's good players that they set up like an unfolded lawn chair to swipe a line from that golf movie I'm drawing a blank on right now, Tin Cup. But and then you have all kinds of different grips, and you have all kinds of different stances and alignments. I mean, Corey Pavin set up with a closed stance, and Kenny Perry set up with an open stance, and then they have opposite ball flights. So it's across the board. So I really try and teach impact and how the lead hand works through impact, how the trail hand works through impact. So impact is issues, especially the scooping through the impact zone. Mm-hmm. That's a very common flaw that I see. But another interesting flaw that I see and I like to highlight is actually swing speed. So many people swing, in my opinion, way too slow because they've been told to slow down all their life. I had a gentleman I worked with back in 2009. He's still with me now, 5 years later. But back in 2009, he came out and he was hitting his 4-iron about 150 yards. And I watched him hit a few, and he said he wanted to hit his long irons farther, and he was hitting it reasonably solid. So, and he was reasonably close to being on the right path, and but his swing speed wasn't there. And so I actually just had him do some drills to swing faster. And the interesting thing was that there's some psychology here. He was actually afraid to do it. He tried it, and then he said, wow, but I could never actually hit a ball swinging that fast. I said, really? Well, why not? He said, well, my friends have always told me to swing slower. And I said, well, just do me a favor, and I don't care where it goes. It's a big ocean out there. It doesn't matter what direction it goes. And I said, just go ahead and swing at that speed that you were. I had him using the speed stick for a while. I said, swing a golf club at that speed that you were using the speed stick. And he hits a few balls, and they go reasonably straight. In fact, a couple of them went straighter than his normal shot, and they went much farther. And he was going about 180 with his 4-iron. So he was pretty excited about that. And then at the end of the session, he still said, "You know what, though? My friends just aren't going to let me swing that fast." And I started to laugh. I go, "Really? Are you kidding me?" But he was serious, and it was really a psychological battle that he had to overcome. And he's done pretty well with it over the years, but it took him a while to get to the point where he was comfortable ignoring his friends and trusting that faster swing would not cause him to lose a whole lot of control. And he went and eventually had an even par 9-hole round a couple of years later. So he was really impressed with that. And that's just a big thing on swing speed.
Yeah, I suspect, just hearing that story that he was probably playing some of those friends for money, and they probably didn't want him to get any better, so they were trying to egg him on. And that's what it takes to me, because it doesn't, that's what I get from it, is they were probably fleecing him for a few dollars every week, and we're afraid he might improve if he started swinging a little bit faster. But no, that's a great story.
And then Jim Rohn, I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Rohn, the personal development coach, but he would always say that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And there's unconsciously, a lot of times we actually keep people that hang out with us at our level.
Right. Well, see, one of the things that I always did, what I used to do growing up in my earlier days when I was, learning the game, I actually took some lessons at a very young age. I shouldn't say actually that young, but earlier than what I am now. And I won't get into the specifics, but I wasn't very satisfied with what went on. But most of it I taught myself, and of course my father was an exceptionally good golfer, so he sort of guided me along the way. But one of the things that I had always sort of done along my journey, if you will, before I got to the level I am now, and obviously teaching, is I always try to seek out. I enjoyed actually playing. I would go up to the golf course. I mean, I always had regular friends that I played with, but I also enjoyed going a lot by myself. And I would always try to get into a group of golfers that I knew were better than I was, and not just modestly better, but quite a bit better. And
awesome, yeah.
But I wanted to make, what I'm saying, and to me, a lot of people make the mistake of going the other way around, and the problem is, like you said, you kind of get brought down to that level. And I think if you really want to improve, obviously you need to get sound instruction, but I think you also need to play with people that are going to bring your game up, not bring your game down.
Right, and that's a championship mindset, and that's not going to happen with everybody. I had one student a few years ago that actually went from a 14 to 11, and then he went back to a 14. And I asked him what had happened, and he said, I wasn't comfortable at an 11. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
that was his mindset. He just was more comfortable at a 14, so he stopped doing the things that he had made the changes to play better, but he stopped doing those, and he was just more comfortable playing at a 14 with the people that he played with.
Yeah, sometimes I think people are afraid of change, and this is where really your early assessments of a student are important, to really find out what their goals are, what their desires are, because I think if it's certainly ambitious of an instructor to want to get them to a higher level, but there are some out there that just are quite happy. They just want to be able to play comfortably with the group that they're with, and want to maybe just make some modest improvements. And I think you have to recognize that as an instructor, and not sort of put your will onto these individuals, because sometimes they're just not receptive to that. And as you say, he was more comfortable sort of going back to a 14 than he was at the 11. And there's some out there that are just
that's a business strategy for a lot of golf instructors that they would benefit by being aware of. Some people don't want to play all that much better. Sometimes they don't even want to change their score. They might just want to change their ball flight a little bit, or see something different with their ball flight. I had one gentleman, he was started to hook it like crazy, and I thought, well, we're going a little too far here. We stopped slicing, but now you're hooking it too much. He said, I don't care. I'm so glad that ball flight's not going right. So you gotta, sometimes people aren't just, and in fact, I have a lot of golfers that one of the first things they'll say to me in our first session is they'll say, well, I don't want to be a pro. As if I was going to make them a pro or something like that. But I guess apparently with their previous experiences with coaching, they were thrown so many things that were high-level stuff that they just weren't interested in doing, and they just wanted to make a little tweak here or there and enjoy the game more.
Well, probably one of the best tips that I ever got, and actually it came a little bit later, but was actually from Mo Norman. And I've talked a little bit on the program before, Scott, about my experience with Mo Norman back up in Canada. And I was out at the range, and he really just said to me, don't think about it. Just get up there and hit it. You know what to do. Just get up there and hit it. And play the shot. And I mean, obviously, he didn't get into it as technical, but the idea was that he said that one of the things that kills a lot of golfers is they overthink the process, and they get too many things cluttering up their mind. And Mo was just the type of person that he just sort of walked up to the ball, and he literally just did it. He hit it, and shot after shot, they would just be like like a dart. And he just got his game to such a point that he didn't think about all the things. I mean, it never even managed to get into his head what he was doing. He just went and did it. And I think, even though that's maybe oversimplifying it a little bit, I think what he was basically trying to say was, don't overthink the process. Just get up there, with what you've been taught, and just execute the shot that you need to execute, and just do it. And don't sit there and dwell on it stand over the ball for the next 3 or 4 minutes, hovering, waiting to, till that perfect thought comes in your mind, and then you just get cluttered. And I think that's what a lot of people make the mistake, playing, is they just get too bound up in the thought process of what they need to do and overthink the process.
And that's such a beautiful way to play golf, is to go out there and take the game that you have and play. And then if it doesn't work out, practice it, work it out on the practice range. But when you go out to play, it's time to play.
Yeah.
Caveman
and
golf,
that's something
right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that Scott, that really a lot of people have to understand. And we've said this with many of the other teaching professionals that have come on the program here. We've talked about a number of times where too many people don't know. They want to take their range game out to their actual game, and the problem is what you do on the range is not what you do out on the course. The range is there specifically to work out the bugs and the kinks and that sort of thing, and to work on the techniques. But when you get out there on the golf course, it's time to play. And whatever game you have, if you're slicing still a little bit that day, then that's what you work with when you're on the course. That's what you play with. Don't sit and try to correct it and do all the changes that you maybe were taught in a previous lesson while you're playing the game, because you're just going to end up having a lousy round and get frustrated. And a lot of people fall into that same trap. They get out there and they're thinking about what the instructor says. So what are some tips that you think that to help people overcome that? What would you suggest to a student that's having that problem?
That they're overthinking?
Well, that they're taking their range game out to the golf course. In other words, you've taught them some things in the lessons to work on while they're in their practice session, but they keep taking it out onto the golf course. They're overthinking that process while they're out there. What do you do to try to combat that? Because that's something I think a lot of, especially handicapped golfers, are guilty of. They tend to take what they're doing on the range out into the golf course.
Exactly.
All the mechanics.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, one of the things we do is I will highlight balls per minute. How many balls per minute are they using in their practice session? And so balls per minute, a lot of golfers that struggle, they do what I call the whack groan drag, and it's where you whack a ball, and before you even look where it goes, you groan, and then you drag the next ball from the pile, and you're hitting 4 or 5 balls per minute. Whereas if they get into a mode where they're actually playing a course on the range, visualizing where the hazards would be on the first hole, where the fairway would be on the first hole, and playing a shot, and then saying, okay, well, that went into the right rough and behind a tree, so now I have to hit a shot that's going to carve a little left to right and around the tree, under the tree, and up 30 yards short of the green, and then they actually hit that shot on the range. They might even walk over to the rough in the range, on the side of the range, to hit that shot as example, so that they're actually playing a round of golf on the range. And that can be beneficial to get them more into a playing mode versus just the whack, groan, drag that you see a lot of players do.
Yeah. And obviously you want to utilize your range time. When you only have a few minutes before, hopefully you're smart enough to drive to the golf course, more than 15 minutes before you're teeing off. But if you're one of those ones, then, it's okay to just hit a few warm-up shots. You're not going to go through, at that point, in my opinion, I think that's when you sort of focus on your pre-shot routine and get that, sort of in sync and ready when we're coming late to the golf course. But if you allowed yourself a little extra time on the range, that's a great idea. What you said is to take some of those practice shots, go over to the side of the range and maybe if there's some rough area and practice some of those shots that you might be faced with. That's where you want to do it, is on the range and not take all the mechanics, if you will, out to the golf course and just go out and play, as you said.
Absolutely. With our remaining time here, did you want to shift into a little more on the business side for the other golf instructors? But thanks for having me on and asking where they can get the books. They can get at GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com/books, or if they just go to GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com, they can easily find the books on that site.
Perfect. And if they want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yes, golfers can get in touch with me directly through GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com, and then golf instructors can reach me through USAGolfMarketing.com.
Perfect. Scott, I want to thank you for coming on Golf Talk Live, and again, I know that you've been a little under the weather today, so I appreciate you spending a little extra time with me. So I hope that you'll go and get better and enjoy the weekend with your family and that. Scott, I really appreciate again you doing this. And just one last thing, Scott, if you wouldn't mind, I've obviously got the link in that, but if you can send me when you're feeling a little bit better, maybe in the next week or so, the jacket for your books. What I've done as a courtesy to all of my guests on here that have books out there is I put them up with the links on my website, just so that people that are sort of perusing through my site can take a look at your books and then follow back to your links and purchase a copy if they so choose. So I like to do that for all of my guests. So if you want to maybe send you a copy of the jacket, I can certainly have that put up on my site in the next few weeks.
Oh, yeah. No, that's no problem. I'll send that out to you right away. I'm not on my deathbed or anything here.
No, I know, but you got family. You got to spend some time with your family. And, I appreciate you taking time with and sharing some very interesting stories and whatnot, and some very sound business advice for the professionals out there that are tuning in as well. So, Scott, I appreciate it. You have a great evening and a great weekend coming up, and much continued success. And I hope, as I said, I'll send a little more invitation down the road as it gets closer, but I hope that you'll be able to participate next year in our Coach's Corner segment. I think you have a lot of fun doing it.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Ted.
All right. Have a great night, Scott.
You as well.
All right. Thank you. Okay, for those of you that tuned in a little bit later, my special guest this evening was PGA golf guru Scott Seifferlein. Scott, as we were just talking about, is the owner of GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com and has written 4 business golf and golf instruction books that we were just talking about a few minutes ago, and also noted golf instructor in Donald Trump's book, Trump, the Best Golf Advice I Ever Received. And so Scott's been sharing a little bit with us tonight about the books and some of the business applications that he's been using for him, and suggests that we take a lead and use that in our business as well. And as I said in the beginning of the program, I've been watching and monitoring Scott a little bit for quite some time now on the different social media sites, and always enjoy reading his inputs, and every once in a while I'll jump in there as well. But I just enjoy some of the comments and some of the posts that Scott puts up on Facebook, particularly in the various golf groups, and I know that he's very well respected among his peers, and certainly respected by this host, and I was glad to have him on, and he has a very busy schedule, and it took me a while to be able to get him to wind down enough that he'd come on and share some of the conversation tonight. So again, Scott Seifferlein, I appreciate you coming on the program, and when I get the information from you, I will get that up on my website as well. I have another gentleman that's going to be joining us here in a little bit, but I just wanted to remind the listeners here a couple of things. Obviously, we're coming in. It's hard to believe that we're coming into the end of another month here on Golf Talk Live. We're in the end of November in another couple of weeks. November 21st, which will be next Thursday here on Golf Talk Live. I want you to tune in for my very special guest, very interesting guest, actually. I wanted to have something a little bit different on here. His name is Jim Vernez, and he is the owner of RV Golf Club. And it kind of intrigued me. Jim contacted me through, again, one of the social media sites, and really, I'll let Jim do more talking next week when he comes on. But basically, the gist of his business is, in addition to being a golfer, Jim obviously enjoys RVing across country and whatnot, and has put together a golf club for those that also enjoy RVing. And it's very, very interesting. I think you'll find it quite intriguing. So I've invited him to come on next Thursday here on Golf Talk Live at 6 p.m. Central to join me here and talk a little bit about that. And also, for those of you that didn't get a chance to tune in live last week when I had legendary Billy Casper on the program, you really need to tune into that. You can visit the Golf Talk Live link, which is at www.blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. And if you just scroll down, I think the very first one down that you'll see it is the episode with last week with Billy Casper and, of course, Kent Nobis from 9 Iron Sports Drink. It was a great interview. Billy gave me really the whole gamut of the program, and something I didn't get a chance, and hopefully if Scott's still tuning in. But Billy is probably one of the most humble people I've ever had the pleasure of interviewing, and just a really very, very nice man who really gives of himself. And we're going to have him on in the new year, hopefully right after the holidays for a special event. But also, I think I'm going to have him back on here in May. As you may recall, for those of you that did tune in last week, Billy hosts his annual golf tournament, charity tournament in, I believe he said it was May, at the San Diego Golf and Country Club, which goes to help support Billy's Kids, which is his foundation, which is near and dear to his heart. So I want to have him on in May to talk about the tournament in a little more depth and a little bit more in the foundation. Maybe he'll share a few more stories. And don't forget, for those of you, I'm going to have Billy's book, linking that up on the Golf Talk Live blog website probably this weekend, The Big Three and Me, which is really an autobiography of Billy Casper's life. But just some great stories. He managed to share a few with them last week. And there's just so many in there, we couldn't get it all in. And I mean, if I joked last week on the program, if you tuned in, I wish I could stretch it out for 7 hours, this program, and let Billy just have at it, because it's just a world of knowledge in the game, but just a lot of great stories and a lot of wisdom, and certainly was very underrated in the media, if you will, in golf for many years. Won 51 tournaments, including 3 majors, 2 U.S. Opens, and a Masters tournament. And of course, he won the Canadian Open back in, I believe it was 67, which was something that eluded Mr. Nicklaus for his career, even though he was instrumental in designing one of the courses that the Canadian Open played at for many years, Glen Abbey in Oakville, Ontario, which was right next to where I am from in Burlington, originally from in Burlington there. Jack never managed to get a Canadian Open under his belt, which bothered him for quite some time. He really enjoyed playing up there and put a lot of work in. And for those of you that have ever been up to the Canadian Open when it was playing at Glen Abbey, it still periodically, I believe, does go back there every once in a while, but it's moving around more. But for many years, particularly in my younger years, that's where it was playing at Glen Abbey in Oakville. And I used to go there all the time, and it was a very well laid out course, and a lot of fun watching the different pros. And I can remember some very fond memories of not only Jack Nicklaus, but Lee Trevino and Freddie Couples playing there, and many of the other top teach professionals, some of whom have moved on to the Champions Tour, of course, but in more recent years. But just a great venue. And but Billy won that, and as I say, I believe in 1967. So for those of you, excuse me, that didn't get a chance to tune in last week, be sure that you visit the website and or the Golf Talk Live link at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, and you can listen to that. And also go back through the on-demand section. If there's other instructors that maybe you're interested in, you could certainly go back and listen to them. All of the programs, including tonight's program, is auto-recorded, and certainly give you a chance to listen to some of the earlier broadcasts. And you can also, when you visit the main page there, there's a link up top. You can also follow the program, so you get notified in your email when the shows are coming up, a reminder a little bit before the show comes on, just in case you're forgetting. And there's also a link there. You can like us right there on the show for Facebook. But also, if you are somebody that has an iTunes account, you can actually download the podcasts right into iTunes and then upload it into your iPhone and whatnot. So if you're not able to, for whatever reason, scheduling conflicts, you can't listen to the live program here, you can listen to the podcast through iTunes. So make sure you do that as well. And as I was talking to Scott a little bit here, I'm just, forgive me here, I'm just passing a little bit of time here while I wait for my next guest. He's going to be calling in Mark Nace from the Southeastern Collegiate Golf Tour. He's going to be coming on here in a few moments to talk about a tournament that's coming up in December that he wants to make you all aware of. So we're going to talk about that for a few minutes. And then he's going to be coming back on December 5th, I believe, to talk a little bit about more about the Southeastern Collegiate Golf Tour. So we're just going to wait for him for a few minutes. But in the meantime, as I said to Scott, I don't have a problem in talking, so I'm going to kill a few minutes here and just sort of recap some of the things that I talked about with Scott that I'm planning on doing for next year. I'm going to be reaching out in the next week or so to many of the guests that have been on here, particularly the golf instructors and some of the mental coaches and things like that that have been on Golf Talk Live, and get them lined up for the schedule for next year to come on, many of whom, in fact, most of them, if not all of them, indicated that they wanted to participate in the Coach's Corner segment, which is going to be a lot of fun. Just to give you an idea of what it's going to be to the listeners here, what Coach's Corner, the concept is going to be a phone-in broadcast, which will be an hour long. It may go over depending on how well it does, but essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to have a couple of the coaches on here each week for an hour and give you, the listeners, a chance to call into the program, ask some questions. Also, I'm going to have a separate email account set up for questions at Golf Talk Live. I'll give that email out in the weeks to come. So if you're not able to call in, you can send in questions ahead of time. I'll be posting the schedule as far as who's going to be on and what weeks they're going to be on the program. So if you have a favorite coach that you're following, maybe you're a student of theirs and you want to come on air and ask a question, or maybe you just want to email a question ahead of time for when they do appear, I would certainly love to do that. And I'll give you that email address, as I said, in the weeks to come. I'm just in the process of finalizing a few things. But generally the program, I'm going to probably pick a different topic each week so that we're not getting too repetitive. So maybe one week we may talk on certain areas of the short game, maybe putting, and we'll get some experts on here about the putting game and allow you to ask some questions about putting and some of the techniques and some of the different styles and just how to improve your game. And it's really, we want it to be a more interactive program. We'll still be doing some guest interviews as well along the way, but I want to introduce that new segment. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I think it'll give you, the listeners, as I said, a chance to interact with some of the teaching professionals from all over the country, and we're going to rotate the schedule out, so there'll be some new ones every week and give a fresh perspective to the game, and I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I hope my guest tonight, Scott Seifferlein, will participate as he indicated. I think he'd be a great one to have in the mix, and as I said, we'll probably just have maybe 2 or 3 at the most. We won't get too many because it'll get too confusing, but 2 or 3 of them will be on each broadcast for an hour, and we'll field some questions both on the phone and also maybe even some Twitter tweets and some emails and so forth. And also I encourage you to go on to the Facebook page at facebook.com/golftalkliveblog and throw a few likes, and you can maybe post some questions up there as well. And again, my Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO. Certainly love if you follow me on Twitter, and you can send some questions through Twitter as well, and I'll make sure that you, excuse me, pardon me, that I read them on the program. If you send me a tweet or if you email me some questions at a later point, I'll certainly make sure they get read on the program. Also, I would love it if you would visit the website at www.golftalkliveblog.com and check out some of the books that are on there. There's a couple of products on there as well. There's going to be more added on in the weeks to come as I get the information sent into me. But right now we've got the in-your-face view base, which you remember Marion Cota was on a few months ago talking about that. And really it's a view base that you can clamp on, whether it be a desk or on your golf cart or golf bag, and it will hold your iPhone or your smartphone. It can be used for a multitude of things. As I said, when you're playing around, maybe you've got a GPS unit that you're using on your smartphone. Maybe you've got a program or an app that you're using, and you want to be able to secure your iPhone or smartphone. You can do that with the in-your-face view base. So make sure you check out that on my website there's a direct link there that you can actually go right to their secured link and secured site, and purchase the view base, as well as the view base for the tripod mount as well is also available through that link. For those of you that want to mount an iPhone onto your tripod, maybe you're taking some video of your golf swing and things like that, it's also available through the website as well. You can click on that link on the golftalkliveblog.com website. And also on there, you remember a few weeks back I had Joe Watson, who was from No Sweat Golf, and that was the lotion that we talked about, or the spray, if you will, which was fantastic, especially for down here in the south when you're dealing with more humid climates. That's one of the things that has really, really helped me. Spray a little bit of that on, rub it, literally around all of your hands and your fingers, and it really helps prevent your hands from sweating. And you can actually even do that before you put your glove on. That'll help inside your hand from sweating into your glove and making a real mess there. So definitely want to check that out. It's available on the website as well. It'll take you to Joe's site there, and you can make a purchase right through the link off of my website. I'm going to be adding some other products on there as well. The Star Putter putting tool link is going to also be available on the website. You heard the short commercial earlier on during Scott's segment about the Star Putter putting tool. It's available at starputter.com, but it will also be available through my website as well at golftalkliveblog.com. And got a lot of great guests going to be coming up in the new year. One I'm really looking forward to. It was actually in Billy's book. There was a short paragraph in there about the late Teddy Rhodes, who was an African-American golfer who went through a very early time in the PGA history. He has a foundation that is run by his daughter, Peggy Rhodes. She's going to be coming on the show in February. In fact, I think we've just confirmed the date, February 20th. And she's going to be talking about the Teddy Rhodes Foundation and talking a little bit about some of the struggles that her father faced earlier on the PGA Tour, trying to get out there and play, and just some of the things that he had to overcome. And we'll also talk about some of the other African-American golfers who struggled earlier on, such as Lee Elder and Charlie Sifford. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about them. And also joining her on the 20th is going to be Pete McDaniels, who was the author of Uneven Lies, which was, again, a book that talked greatly about some of the struggles that many of the African-American players had very early on. And the reason why I wanted to do this story, I think it's a great story to be told. I know that I believe the Golf Channel did a few years ago, did a little bit about it, but I wanted to get Peggy on the program, particularly to talk about that, about her father, and again, some of the things that he was faced with, but also to help her foundation. And she has a tournament that they do every year. I believe it's in Nashville, and I believe it's in the fall, in around September, but we'll get the dates and everything for you when she comes on here, get a little more clarity for it. But I really want to bring that, because really, when we put things in perspective, if it wasn't for some of the struggles that Teddy Rhodes and some of the others that that I mentioned, players like Tiger Woods might not be playing on the PGA Tour today. So there were a lot of crossroads that had to be made, and I think it's a story that needs to be told, and I'm very honored that Peggy and Pete McDaniels is going to come on and talk about that, and his book, Uneven Lies. That'll be on February 20th here on Golf Talk Live at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Just waiting a few more minutes here. If you could just bear with me. My last guest will be on here just in a few more minutes, Mark Nace of the Southeastern Collegiate Golf Tour. He's going to be coming on talking about a tournament that's going to be coming up in this coming December. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and explain what's happening there and some of the good things that they're doing with that tournament. And then, as I said, he's going to be coming back here on December 5th. I believe he's going to be coming back and talking a little bit more about the tour and some of the things that he's doing for next year in 2014. I want to thank again, while I've got a few moments here, my very special guest this evening. I really appreciate Seifferlein for coming on here and just sharing some of his insight and some of his experiences here. I know, as I mentioned several times throughout the program, that Scott was a little bit under the weather. Unfortunately, he's up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they're experiencing a little colder weather than we are here down in Panama City Beach, Florida. And so I know that even though I know he said there jokingly at the end he's not in his deathbed, but I know what it's like to, being from Canada, I know what it's like to get a cold this time of the year. But anyways, Scott, I want to thank you for coming on the program, and I appreciate it. And for those of you that weren't able to tune into the live broadcast, immediately following the broadcast here tonight, if you give it about maybe 15, 20 minutes, the recorded version will load up on the Golf Talk Live site, and you'll be able to listen to the broadcast tonight in its entirety. And I really strongly suggest, particularly not just the average golfers out there that want to maybe pick up a tip or two on how to get better prepared, but particularly for some of the golf instructors out there, Scott has a wealth of knowledge that he's accumulated over the years, as he said, and he graciously came on and shared some of it. And of course, I want you to make sure that you visit his website, GrandRapidsGolfLesson.com, and purchase a copy of any of his books. He's got 4 books available: The Game of Golf and The Art of Business, 19 Holes of Business Golf Conversation, and of course the 2 books, Stop Slicing in 5 Swings and Stop Slicing in 5 Swings for Left-Handed Golfers. So you can get the link to purchase those is www.grandrapidsgolflesson.com/books, and you can get yourselves a copy there. And again, I thoroughly enjoy having a lot of the instructors that I have on the program each week, and I also enjoy a lot of the other business types in the golf industry that are coming on, and we're going to get into more of that as well. One other thing I do want to mention, now that I did briefly bring it in, and I haven't got all the details for this quite yet, but another program, we're actually going to be putting it on an entirely different evening for this program, but something that is really near and dear to me, and I guess I get this from my upbringing. I have a great mother who has always been very supportive of me over the years. Of course, my father has as well, but my mother particularly is always, as I'm sure many out there can say, attest to. But she always taught me that, how important the role in life that women play, and I think it's very underrated and has been for many, many years in all aspects, and particularly in the golf industry. A lot of people might argue and say, well, they've got the LPGA Tour, and I don't understand what you're talking about. But when you talk to a lot of the women out there, they're still faced with many, many struggles in the golf business. And as a result of that, I've decided to, since this particular program has been so successful this year, I just feel that it's prudent of me to expand it. And I can't think of a better direction to go than to bring on a whole new segment, or actually a whole new program called the Women of Golf. And as I mentioned to Scott, Cindy Miller, LPGA player Cindy Miller, is going to be joining me on that program, doing some interviews and joining in some of the conversation and interviewing different, not only players, but also some great female golf coaches, and teachers. I'm sure that we'll get some great ones like Nicole Weller to come back on the program, and particularly on that segment, I'm sure she'll come back, and some of the others that have been on the program thus far on my regular Golf Talk Live program. But this is going to be a special program that's going to be really geared to the women of golf, not just to the instructors, as I said, but to the players, but also to many of the golf professionals out there in other areas of golf. For instance, some of the business professionals that run successful golf businesses, some of the women in that area as well, from clothing lines to instructors to various different products out there. We want to hear some of their success stories and some of the challenges that they're faced in. And we want to hear from you, some of the ladies out there, some of the things that you're dealing with and you're struggling with, not just in your game. Maybe you're having difficulty getting on certain courses and things like that, and we want to talk about that and in the Women of Golf. So Cindy Miller, as I said, is going to be coming on that with me and getting involved in different areas. I don't know whether or not, we haven't finalized everything, whether she'll be on every program or not, but she's certainly going to have some great input, and I'm looking forward to that. And she's going to be inviting some of her great friends off the LPGA Tour as well, both past and some present, going to be coming in. So I'm really looking forward to working with Cindy Miller. She's has been a phenomenal player, but equally phenomenal, a fantastic instructor, and I'm also going to have her as a guest on the program as well here on Golf Talk Live in the new year. So I want to definitely look forward to doing that, and I believe that